This week we had a society event to do some longtooths, and I already had great progress in the mission for the longtooth migration event and wanted to finish it before the event ended. If you don't know what a migration event is, every year large herds of longtooths and Eomon migrate. And this comes with some quests, both daily and long term, and it's quite a commitment, as you need to kill a lot. For reference, take a look at my progress of the Take a Breather mission. Every 100 kills it just shifts just a little, but using this I can easily calculate how many I need exactly for the maturity I hunt at least, which are Guardian and Provider. And this can of course differ on higher or lower. From this point I need 373 to complete them. So I can simply use Blender and I use 2 images to calculate the width needed and then drag that over the entire area. The total width is 415 pixels and the current width is 305 pixels. Percentage, you would simply calculate 305 divided by 415 times 100, which means I'm currently roughly at 74%. In other words, the remaining 110 pixels of the bar currently red represent 373 mobs. I know this because I already completed the hunt of course, and I'm making this video afterwards. Using this I can easily calculate the total amount of mobs I need to kill for the quest, which is 415 times 373 divided by 100 is approximately 1400 mobs of my maturity. I must say I made a decent profit over the time. It's expensive to kill 100, usually a bit below 800 pet, and a bad run can set you back 200 pet easily. But a good run can turn the tables of course. What we're going to do in this video is a bit of an extension of my previous video where we talked about surviving the bad runs. Needlessly to say, this is the other side of the medallion, which would be optimizing the good runs. And it's a good thing. The migration event has been good to me and paid me back a lot, considering the best loot being an 1100 pet drop. This 1100 drop ensured that I have at least 5 runs that would be guaranteed to be cancelled out if they were bad runs. Now I may be a bit late with the migration video, as last year it ended around the 28th of August and we are now near that date, while the migration event is already going on for a few months. Added to that, the first months are much more interesting, as now finding special mobs like matriarchs and patriarchs are hard, with maybe the exception of Old Thread, which still pops up now and then. And a lot of areas also have those pesky moments running around like mosquitoes. But near Camp Corinth, a solid Guardian and Provider spot remained active. Perfect for solo or in small groups. I always see the loot coming and going in waves, and doing runs of always 100 mobs helps incredibly well in managing your wins and losses. I don't specifically use it to calculate the day results, as I simply check my item value plus holding value plus pet value every day for that. Last few days I have been on a high, but only in hunting. I did get some globals mining, but it's not hard to global if you're using massive amplifiers. Overall those runs been costing me some, and also hunting with the society turned out to go pretty well. For the migration there's of course also a reward at the end of the tunnel, which is the whole reason to go through the endeavor in the first place, and it's a very good gun. There are more places to get very good guns, even for higher players, like a relatively easy questline in Fort Medusa, which is really recommended to do. In your up waves you can often find very good items. For example, I had multiple drops of martial armor. Since it's a limited armor that's not really much markup on it, maybe good for 5 or 6 pet. And my ghost armor is a bit better, since it has a lot of platings and enhances, but it would make a good replacement if you want something similar. It's not mandatory for you to get an armor, especially early on, but at some point you will need to leech harder and harder from other players to still justify not wearing armor. And in a way, for example with society hunts, you can literally force the entire party to have to lower the strength of huntable mobs, as you would constantly die whenever your tank had to take a moment to heal, and you would still do top damage, and that is pulling the whole group down. Investing in armor is expensive, and alternatively would then indeed be a limited armor which you could shelve most of the times, but when you really need to wear it you would pull it on, and armor decay is usually very low, so this way you could enjoy a single set of armor for years. To finish that last stretch for Take a Breather quest I would need to kill another 400ish mobs, which will be 4 runs. I hoped to get everything in the same looting screen, but halfway my chat went over my compass, and when I tried to move the chat it broke the game, so it crashed and I had to reload. Which filled me with great sadness, as I have a remarkably low threshold for things going anything different than I planned in my life. Longtooth are quite hard to kill, so also have a decent base loot. Let's say 3 to 5 pet, at least on this maturity. This is a good base value for decent globals and a rare HOF. Since I needed some residue for a batch of new guns, I didn't mind the low markup loot coming from the Longtooth. Those wools and kidney oils are absolutely fine for recycling, so I could then craft explosive projectiles on high conditions from the residue. I also needed to grind one more level of ranged BLP to get to the 35 guns, which were a high priority for me. Luckily those long toots also do very well in the codex, which helps you knock up that damage level a lot. The first runs of the day usually go extremely well or extremely poorly, and in my observation it's partly depending on how the previous day went. For me it was a very expensive run with nothing special. It would be sure not worth the gun and the end reward if every run would be like that. Since there is low markup overall on these mobs, it's expensive to hunt those, or is there by any chance something making those guys worth your time? Well, the second run proved there's definitely something, and it's called ELM. Those mobs have a good chance of dropping ELM weapons with extremely high markup. The guns themselves only have 1 pet TT value, but exceptional durability. This simply means they seem to be nearly worthless, but will last as long as an R matrix of 65 pet will. Of course, the lower durability loss would reflect in your hunt as well, as you can hunt cheaper, but also will gain less loot. Finding an ISIS LC35 with a markup of around 60 pet is thus great. And the run overall went very great, and in 100 mobs, 6 globals ensured I could do the rest of the mission without a chance of losing money. For this reason I moved the slider a bit more to gambling when I switched from my high efficiency R matrix to my lower efficiency Pyron, which did more damage. The reason I did this was to heighten the base loot per mob, since I was in an upwave. If more globals would come, I would have a higher chance to global harder. This is not in any way advisable, but since the remainder of the runs would be just fine, I decided to burn the entire 280 pet Pyron durability and also added an unlimited amplifier to add even more decay. Even without globals, I could now have an average loot per mob of 4 to 7 pet. Up to 4 extra damage enhancers also upped my DPP a lot, which was an investment made in the past, so as long as they don't break too much, it's paying back now and softens the blow a bit on the efficiency spectrum. The third run went below average, as the globals I did get were barely passing the global mark of 50 pet. But it did provide a second ELM weapon, only level 20 this time, which reflected in the much lower markup. Repairing afterwards proved that shooting with a non-limited weapon and amplifier would drastically change your repair bill. While normally you would only have to spend a fraction of the cycled cost on repair, you now have a massive repair bill, which means that with limited guns and amplifiers you are much more capable of preparing for a hunt, as you first invest the money to hunt in guns and amplifiers and then only need money for ammo. With unlimited guns and amplifiers, you can go in a large hunting session with a much smaller bankroll, as you only need ammo, which you can cycle for a long time, especially if the mob drops mostly shrapnel, by continuously converting the ammo. But you will have a repair bill waiting for you after the hunt, and this can completely catch you off guard if you didn't calculate this in. Round 4 provided me with another weapon pretty early on, but unfortunately it was not full value. For limited weapons, it's of vital importance to be full value, else they'd be virtually worthless. Even more so with melee weapons, as your ammo is your durability. Finally, finishing the quest on the final hunt, the 500 plus pet animal kidney oil will be perfect for crafting. That means 2500 tries on Explosive Projectile 2 on full condition. From the 400 long toots I also got 18 summer boxes. Opening them will require keys, which cost money, but you can also simply sell them on auction. Seeing the bids, I put them on 0.2 to 0.5 pet per box. They do contain some decent stuff, but in my opinion, for example, Easter and Christmas boxes are infinitely more worth, as they simply contain buffs like the Easter egg and the candy cane, and lots of them, whereas the summer box does contain buffs, but usually the standard pills and way too much pets, name tags and fireworks, which is just crap you don't need. As after 20 boxes you probably end up with a handful of low quality buffs and always way too much fireworks. Of course there are decent rings in there as well, but extremely rare. Handing in the quest in Monopolis, you can do 2 things. You can get the gun with the highest markup to sell, which can be another 70 to 100 pet in the pocket, or you can get one to use. The horrible thing is you cannot review them, so you must be very careful clicking one, as you instantly get it. And best to check the website first, using the name to see which one is the best. After calculating the profits, I ended up with 170 pet value, excluding the markup. So if I would calculate the markup from the 3 guns and 2 armor, it would add another 165 pet, so a total of 335 pet profit, which is a great hunt. So in my opinion, the migrations are most definitely worth it, but you're gonna need a hefty bankroll before you should even consider it. You must be sure to be able to complete the hunt or not even start with it. I thank you for watching and I hope you learned something.